usually think of the two Nisim, the two Yeshuas, the Nisim of the time of Hanukkah and the Nisim that occurred at the time of Purim, as two very fundamentally different kinds of salvations. After all, we know the Tzara was fundamentally different. At the time of Purim, so the Jews were in physical danger, mortal danger. In the time of Hanukkah, so it wasn't so much an attack on the guf of Klal Yisrael, it was an attack on the spirit of Klal Yisrael. And we know the poskim tell us that even the way Chazal instituted the celebration of these 2 days expresses this distinction. Purim is celebrated with Mishta v'Simcha, a very physical way, with the Suda, Mishloch Manos, things very tangible, very physically oriented. Whereas Chanukah, of course, is celebrated with Neiros, with candles, representative of Kinei Mitzvah Torah, or spiritual, because the danger is spiritual, and therefore the celebration is spiritual as well. So again, we usually view these two different Nisim, both very significant, both great events in our history, both wonderful days on the calendar, but very different in nature. However, there is a message, I think, that appears in Parshas Toldos that puts a little bit of a different spin, a little bit of a different perspective on these two seemingly different Nisim, where almost these two Yeshuas merge and fuse into one. The Mefarshim are very troubled by the two brachos that appear in Parshas Toldos. One is the bracha that spends most of the time of the parasha dealing with how Yitzchak thought he would give it to Esav, and then Rivka intercedes, and Yaakov ends up getting it. Esav gets upset. Everything revolves around those magic words of Yitan l'chalokim ital shemayim. The bracha is very much of olam hazeh, of wealth, of prosperity. Ital shemayim, mishpan ne'aretz, rov dagam v'sirosh, a lot of wine, a lot of oil, a lot of material goods. And then there's another bracha that's almost hidden, almost tucked in, very end of the parasha, when Yitzchak bids farewell to Yaakov. He blessed him again a second time with a very different kind of a bracha. V'yitan lecha is Birkas Avraham, the bracha of Avraham Avinu, the bracha of Lios l'chol elokim u'zarcha charecha, the bracha being the Am Hashem, the nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the bracha of Eretz Yisrael, that special place in the world where Klal Yisrael will have that relation with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the second bracha that is bestowed upon Yaakov Avinu, and a very, very different type of a bracha. Unlike the first bracha, V'yitan lecha elokim, which was physical in nature, V'yitan lecha Birkas Avraham is primarily spiritual in nature. And in theory, one could have split between the two, and it could be that that was the original plan of Yitzchak. Then in the Farshim say that Yitzchak all along understood, he sized up Esav and Yaakov very well, and he knew that Yaakov would be the one who would receive the bracha of Birkas Avraham. But he thought that somehow Esav could still be Makabel, V'yitan lecha b'tal shemayim. And he thought that maybe we could separate between the two. And Rivka Imenu understood. And the way the Torah portrays ultimately what happened is that Yaakov Avinu was zoich on both brachas. Because you cannot separate the brachas of Olam Hazeh and the brachas of Olam Haba. That the brachas of Olam Hazeh are necessary in order for the ruchnius to flourish. That you need the Mital Shemayim Mishpanei Aretz. The goal of Mital Shemayim Mishpanei Aretz is to enable you to reach the levels of Birkas Avraham. And the two brachas are not separate and distinct, and one cannot be sent away to an Esav, and one end up with the Yaakov. They have to be one and the same, and they merge together, they fuse together, and that's the destiny of Klal Yisrael. To be successful in Tal Shemayim Mishpanei Aretz, to receive all the brachas of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, hein b'olam hazeh, hein b'olam haba, in order to enable us to use the fruits of Olam Hazeh, in order to create a world of Torah, of mitzvah, kedusha, within the Olam Hazeh, within the Olam of the Rav Dagav Sirosh, from the world of Tal Shemayim Mishpanei Aretz. So perhaps when we look at the two different Nisim that occurred to Klal Yisrael at two different times, they weren't so far apart from one another. In fact, it was the Nes of Purim that sets the stage for the Nes of Chanukah. The existence of Klal Yisrael, the flourishing of Klal Yisrael, the physical survival of Klal Yisrael, Yemei Mishta Simcha, all the barachas of Olam Hazeh that were bestowed upon Klal Yisrael in the days after Haman, after the Nes, the Yeshua of Purim, the celebration of surviving in Olam Hazeh, now sets the stage for a couple hundred years later for the Nes of Chanukah, for the Or HaTorah, for the Birchas Avraham, Becoming victorious over the forces who wanted to lashkichem to our. Those people who wanted that we should be successful in Olam they wanted us to be part of the Greek culture, the Greek Empire, to be wildly successful in the physical world, as long as we leave out the Torah Sechel. That's what we say now. We say that we can only have the Nes of Purim if we have the Nes of Hanukkah. We can only have the Yitel Chalakibit Al Shemayim if we can have the Birchas Avram. The bracha of Hein B'Kashbus, Hein B'Ruchnias, that was bestowed upon our forefather, Yaakov Avinu, is the bracha that has guided Jewish history. It's the bracha that guides us ad Bias Goyel. The Rambam depicts the very end of Sefer Malachim. He says, what is the great goal and the great vision and the dreaming of Yemos Mashiach is when these two brachas reach fruition together. When the world will become such a wonderful place, all the Shefa brachas, all the bounty of Olam Hazeh, all the beauty of this world will be there for what purpose? To enable us to grow in Torah, in mitzvahs, in Kedusha, in our relationship, in our avodah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That will be the ultimate celebration of Yemos Mashiach. It is when Chanukah and Purim merge together, when the brachas that were restored by Yaakov Avinu merge together. That is the challenge, the goal of each and every one of us, and that's the challenge of the world. We will be zoicha to reach fruition the two brachas of Yaakov Avinu. We should be zoicha to be Yitelecha V'kim, V'tal Shemayim Sh'Haaretz. We should be zoicha to the bracha of Yitelecha B'Chaz Avraham. Good job, everybody.